What's going on today, guys? Dean from Deancent Garage here, and in today's video we're going to be replacing the alternator on the 2013 Honda Civic. So I was recently driving in my Honda Civic and I had the check battery light come on, and I had some weird things going on, like power steering kind of was getting a little bit stiff at times, and my radio reset, a few different weird things kind of happened. So I wasn't sure exactly what was going on. I wasn't sure if it was the battery, alternator, or if I had some other weird issue going on. So first thing I did is I went through some troubleshooting steps. So we got our voltmeter. We'll turn it to voltage. Make sure we're on DC. You can see there we're on DC. Red to red, black to black, and you can see we're down to 11 volts, which is no bueno. Meaning that our alternator is highly likely to be bad. Could be a battery, but I actually had another battery in here already. Same thing was happening, voltage was dropping, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna swap out the alternator because that is causing our problem. Test we did here, turned headlights on, air conditioner, radio, a few other things, just to put a high load on this. And we should be seeing a lot higher voltage than 11, ideally around 14 and a half. We're just dropping here because the alternator is not doing its job. Another test we should do before swapping out the alternator is testing the battery. Quick and easy way to tell if you have a bad battery or not is to use another battery and just swap it out. And you don't even have to install it in the car. You can use booster cables connected to the positive and negative of that battery to the positive and negative cables that are in the car. I'll pop up a little diagram here on the screen so you can see exactly how you need to wire that in to bypass your old battery and use that as a testing method. Of course, this only works if you have another vehicle or another battery that you can use. You can test that way to see if you're still experiencing the same problems, and that will tell you if it's the battery causing the issues or something else in the system. And if it's something else in the circuit, there's a very good chance that that's the alternator causing those problems. So this is the error message that I'm seeing on the Honda Civic when I start it up. It says check charging system. So if you're experiencing a similar problem and you see this error message, good chance it could be your alternator. First thing we want to do is find a replacement alternator. You can usually find several replacements under different brand names from your local parts store, Rock Auto, and Amazon. I'll drop a couple links below. Or you can do what I did and find one from your local wreckers that came from a low mileage car that met an early fate. I found an alternator at my local wreckers from a car that had only 45,000 miles on it for 50 bucks. The reason why I chose to get my alternator from the wreckers is since my Civic has over 500,000 kilometers on it, I figured it was a safe bet to get an OEM replacement from a low mileage car, as my car could still be on its original alternator. Also, I'm cheap. After finding a replacement alternator, we'll need to grab a few basic tools. If you don't have some of these tools, your local Harbor Freight or Princess Auto should have them. Each tool is listed below in the description. Some are optional, but can make the job a lot easier. Now that we've got our alternator and tools ready, next thing we need to do is we need to pop the hood on the Civic, and we need to locate the battery. Now it's time to move on to the fun part. First thing we want to do under the hood is we want to disconnect the battery. Next, we need to locate the alternator. With the hood open, facing the front of the car, you'll see the alternator on the left-hand side of the engine bay. Next, we'll want to get an appropriately sized bungee cord set up under the hood to keep the tension on the belt once we remove the belt from the alternator pulley. The reason we're doing this is we don't want the belt to slip off all the pulleys because you will have one hell of a time trying to get that belt back on if it does slip off. Next, we'll want to grab an 18mm wrench and another wrench of similar size, and we want to put those wrenches together like this, and then we're going to use that to remove the tension off of the belt using the belt tensioner. Once we remove the tension, we can slide the belt off easily, and then this is where that bungee cord comes into play. Once we get the belt off, we're going to want to grab our bungee cord, and we'll loop that around the belt, keeping the tension on the belt so it does not come off the other pulleys. Next, we're going to want to disconnect the connectors from the alternator. One cable requires a 10mm socket to remove. Then we'll use needle nose pliers to remove this cable strap. We'll use the 10mm socket again to remove this cable strap bracket. There is a cable bracket on the other side of the alternator as well we need to remove, which is also held on by a 10mm head bolt. There are two 12mm head bolts holding the alternator onto the engine that we need to remove. One you can't see because it's below the pulley, but I'll show you on the other alternator here in the rough location of where that bolt will be found. Before trying to remove these two 12mm bolts, I recommend using a penetrating fluid. Now there's multiple brands that you could use, but the one I specifically recommend is actually a homebrew penetrating fluid that is just a mixture of acetone and automatic transmission fluid. You can see a comparison of the homebrew penetrating fluid and the off-the-shelf penetrating fluids at the link above here. After we get both bolts removed out of the alternator, we can go ahead and use a pry bar, or in my case a breaker bar, to go ahead and pry the alternator away from the engine. Now that we've broken it free, we can remove the old alternator and install the new one, or in my case, the new To Me alternator. If you guys are enjoying the video, please do me a huge favor, hit that like button, subscribe button, and notification bell. Now we're going to install the two alternator mounting bolts that we previously removed. And we'll use our DeWalt 20-volt ratchet to tighten up the bolts. Then we'll torque them down to good and tight with our wrench. Next, we'll bolt the cable mount onto the alternator. Then we'll start reconnecting the cables. Now we're going to relieve tension on the belt tensioner with a wrench, and once the tension has been released, we're going to slide the belt back over the alternator pulley. Check to make sure everything looks good before starting the car up. Reconnect the battery cable. Alright, now we're going to confirm everything is happy. Start the car up. Make sure everything looks good under the hood. And no more warning. Before we had check charging system warning pop up almost immediately. And now we don't have that warning because the charging system is working the way it should be. That's another Deancent garage project, Dunzo, Washington. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. I'll see you guys in the next one.